Jason Donovan, welcome to Virgin Radio.
Thank you for having me.
It's lovely to see you. How
you doing? Lovely to see you. I'm good. Yeah, doing a lot of promo at the moment for my tour, and so it's been a busy few months, but I feel good. I feel fit.
As always, I've known you for years, but you are, the busiest man in showbiz. You've got so many things on.
I like to keep busy, and I have a lifestyle I like to upkeep, and that requires funds. But more to the point, I feel lucky because I do something I love doing, and I'm one of the few people. Well, hopefully, I'm not one of the few people, but when I do feel very grateful for a job that I'm not looking at the watch the whole time.
No, you always look like you're having a really good time, which is nice to see, isn't it?
Oh,
genuinely.
Great, thank you. Well, I try and be happy most of the time.
Yes. Okay. Well, I'm really excited about this because we've got your tracks. Listen, can we start with you?
Yes.
With Jason Donovan.
Okay.
A couple of songs I asked you to pick of your own. Of course, Too Many Broken Hearts. This is an incredible song. The thing about this song is it still sounds equally as good now as it did. Do you know the first time I heard it? Yeah. What does this song mean to you?
Well, this was a sort of a game changer for me. It was just a song that put me down as a solo act. I'd come up with Nothing Can Divide Us in 1988, and that sort of that took off, but it didn't take off. It was, it was top 10. I'd be happy for that these days.
Put you on the map,
yes,
didn't
it put me on the map, and then especially if you really sort of changed the whole landscape for me as a music artist. But that was with Kylie, and very grateful for the fact that she said yes to that at the time, because the power was really with her. But more to the point, the power was with the people, because the demand for that song and then a solo song was huge. So Mike probably and Matt, the two that really, drove the songwriting aspect of it, came up with Too Many Broken Hearts, which I think, when you listen to Rick, when you listen to Kylie, when you listen to Bananarama, they've all, even though the sound is very much of Stockache and Waterman, there's still a distinctive character for each of those songs that fits to the personality. And I think Too Many Broken Hearts just capitulated with a guitar sort of dun-ka-dun-ka-dun, so it was unusual for Stockache and Waterman, but I think they got the balance between pop,
slightly rockier, wasn't it?
A little bit edgier than which is where I wanted to be at.
And as we go into this song, can I just congratulate you on your hair in the video to the song?
Thank you.
It's the best hair I've ever seen, Jason. It's a work of art, and he's still got plenty of it. I can only dream.
It's cost me a fortune, this haircut, but no, it was, and the video worked, and it was just one of those moments where everything sort of the world, it's quite amazing to think, even then when you probably took things more for granted with the success of Neighbours, and then, especially for you, but, to get a number one record's not easy. It's not easy.
Let's talk about, especially for you, Jason Donovan's with me on my 80s playlist. Is it true? A couple of questions. I've always wanted to ask you this. You weren't in the same studio singing the song, is that true?
As Kylie?
Yes.
No, we were. We were in Sydney. We do different shifts on the song. We recorded in Sydney. Obviously, as I said to you previously, the demand for the record was huge.
Because everyone said, come on, it's got to happen.
Yeah, it's got to happen. Well, I guess with Kylie having her success with her first album, and then me sort of titillation with Nothing Can Divide Us.
Can I ask you, was that daunting? Because Kylie obviously had a number one album, the songs were really big here, and then you were a few months down the line until you were you thinking, oh gosh, now I've got to live up to what Kylie's done?
I don't think I felt that. I felt more, can I deliver the vocals, because I wasn't, she was very musical in the sense that she'd done a lot of recording, and, she was quite match fit to the way in which they worked. They worked very quickly. I wasn't, I was a little bit behind the eight ball with the music side of things. So the prospect of recording a song that you'd never heard started with, the world's best producers at the time, and knowing that you had a sort of a very raw vibe was tough, I think. But, with time, I've sort of forgotten about that. But I guess when you listen to the song was really designed for her key, firstly. And, I did struggle a little bit with the recording, but listen, a hit's a hit,
Exactly.
and it was definitely my vocals. I was there. It was just very patchy.
You should be congratulated, because when we go into this song, remember that you got the biggest audience watching the wedding in Neighbours. This song came out during that time.
Mm-hmm.
There was no bigger stars than you and Kylie. 1980, as a teen, that was my year that I was buying Smash Hits magazine, and you were on the front cover.
Yes.
You were this era.
Yes.
And very few people can claim such a big thing.
Yeah, 88, 89, 90 were probably sort of golden times. 91 even maybe with Joseph. But in 90 it started to sort of, my big year was 1989. 90, the record started to slip down the charts a little bit. You get the sense that you have a little bit of time with these things. And then they're on to the next thing, which I think probably at that point might have been even Take That. I could see them looming in the background. So I was aware of that. And I've always been quite grounded in that sense. My dad's an actor, and as an actor, it's not like being a pop star. It's not just about you; it's about the team, really. And not saying that musicians don't think about other musicians and other teams. It's just you invent a character as a pop star. As an actor, you have to play someone else's sort of character in a way. But, I just went for it. I mean, I went for it. I don't know. And it sort of happened,
Let's get into some of the songs you put on your list. Really excited about this. Tell us about Joy Division. The song you've gone for is...
Love Will Tear Us Apart, which I think might have been on the cusp of the 80s.
Yes.
Like literally on the cusp of the 80s.
So first question, around this time, if I'm right, you
Yes.
probably met Kylie about this time with Sky. Was it
I
Sky?
did. I was in a TV series called Skyways where we played brother and sister, and ironically, sort of 8 years or 6 years later, she turned up on Neighbours because I started before her. And said in the wardrobe bus, do you remember me? And I said, no, I can't. And she said, we played brother and sister on Skyways. Subsequently, that incestuous relationship turned out to go on to other areas and different things, which is sort of interesting as well, but all good, very good.
I must ask you, as a young man in Australia, with this song, did you realise the legacy that this band and this song had here with the Hacienda nightclub?
No, I didn't.
New Order?
No, I didn't. But I loved New Order. I loved Joy Division. I was an alternative music taste, as well as sort of popular, which you'll see a little bit later in this list. But it's a very haunting sort of love song. It's a dark, and they were just. I saw New Order in Australia as a teenager, and I've subsequently met Peter Hook. I haven't met the other band members, and I remember when I saw New Order in Melbourne, they'd all turn their backs to the audience because that was sort of one of their tricks in those days. And Peter Hook said, I think we probably would have done that. Interesting to meet one of your idols, interesting to be on the same Bill Rewind festival that I sometimes do, or these festivals where they celebrate the 80s. He sometimes is on the bill as himself. This was sort of the beginning of an alternative music. This was the beginning of dance music, not disco. This was a time, David Bowie's Ashes to Ashes. There was a real sort of, melancholic sort of, really interesting tone to what was coming out of Britain.
And this summed it up, didn't it? This Depeche Mode song that you've picked, I think it represents everything that Depeche Mode ever wanted to achieve, don't you? Which song have you gone for?
I went for Policy of Truth. It's empowering, this song. You know, it's sort of, you constantly in life try to tell the truth, you know. And, you know, this song is a little dark, and I do love those sort of, you know, the darker chords sometimes. You know, and I think, you know, the video to this, if I remember...
This black and white movie number,
Is this the one where the guy walks up the hill? I mean, is this the one, Policy of Truth is where... That
it is.
You'll be able to edit this, won't you?
Yeah. I could YouTube it. But
Anyway, I think, you know, I discovered Depeche Mode a little bit later on in life.
Can you remember the song that alerted you to them?
I can... well, this is probably probably one of the songs that alerted to me, but it wasn't until I really... The Violator... Enjoy the Silence. I think this might have been on that record. You know, they're just they're a dance band. They're very sexy. They're very in control of themselves. They're very masculine too, and I just think they're quite cool, you know. I mean, I had Dave, the lead singer, once in my flat in Notting Hill. Should I have said that? I don't know why I said that. I had the lead singer of...
I know what you meant.
Yeah, I had the lead singer of Depeche Mode once in my flat, because we met up at a nightclub, I think, and I was just one of those surreal moments where you go, I'm such a fan of your music. Amazing. And we're talking one-on-one across a table, and you know, really interesting band, and still doing strong and on tour at the moment. I can't wait to see them live again. I think one of the great, you know, he's one of the great, Dave Garn is one of the great frontmen of
and they're
rock
one of the
and roll
great stadium bands as well, aren't they? They did it. They kind of like set the tone.
Yeah, and their visuals are always very strong, and they don't compromise, you know, and it's very easy, I think, to do that with music. But they've had the power, and Policy of Truth, I think, is just a wonderful, you know, homage to their good work.
Jason, I'm so eager to ask you about INXS. Michael Hutchence, you know, one of the absolute great kind of rockmen in our generation for years. Obviously, a fellow Australian. Tell me now, when you look back at, you know, on him, what he means to you, what his legacy is.
Well, I mean, growing up, you know, INXS weren't, you know, to you guys, it was Kick that really sort of was the moment that band sort of took off with the rest of the world. But as an Australian, you know, INXS were, you know, a pub band in the 70s, and a sort of, you know, big Chris Thomas, I think, who's one of the great producers, you know, recorded a couple of records with them, which sort of brought them more into the world arena in terms of music, but a very successful Australian band. And Michael was, you know, a wonderful, you talk about Dave Garn and frontman, he was an incredible, charismatic frontman, but more to the point, you know, the songs just sort of Aussie in a way, Aussie funk rock, you know, again, quite masculine, quite strong.
They just kind of had it all.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, I chose Original Sin because there's a lot of other songs I probably would have been more fond of.
This was the Nile Rodgers produced song, isn't it? So
it might have been. I can't quite remember. Maybe it was. But again, it has that sort of, you know, funk, Australian, you know, core, and it's, you know, it's my heritage, this sound and this band.
Great stuff. Dying to ask you about this next track you put down, Boy Meets Girl. I read somewhere that this track was meant for you originally.
Well, no, it wasn't meant for me. When I was recording, when I was about to start recording, I was being entertained by a number of record companies.
I bet they all wanted you, didn't
they? There wasn't. We didn't have a shortage of offers, but I got a number of demos. In those days, they came as cassettes, obviously, and I remember, Waiting for a Star to Fall being played to me as a demo and it hadn't been released. I loved it. I can't remember why I didn't take it on. Well, probably because, I ended up with Stockake and Waterman, so we went in a completely different direction. But this is just a great pop song. Yeah. This is like a breath of fresh air. It's a husband and wife team. They're a writing team. I don't think they're together anymore, which is
they did some great songs, like they wrote for Madonna, didn't they?
Correct. Yeah. Whitney Houston. I think
Tina Turner.
Yeah. I mean, but the big Whitney hits they did, and it's just that sort of West Coast rock pop, and this song is just possibly the best feel-good song ever.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, as it starts, tell me how it makes you feel the first 10 seconds.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of how it starts.
It's that lovely kind of instrumental.
It's just light. It floats above the core of the music, and it's just a really well-crafted song. Timeless. I put it on before most of my shows because I just think it lifts an audience, and it's a very definitive 80s track.
By the way, we must speak about, you're still on tour, you're about to do Rocky Horror.
Yes.
So I saw you in Brighton.
Yes.
I mentioned you to this 1996, and it was an incredible show. There was so much press about you as this role, and you came on, and I think there was a standing ovation the moment you came on. That role was incredible. I mean, do you remember that tour? There was a lot of press.
1998, I do remember it very well. It was 25 years ago. Obviously, I've been doing Rocky in Australia, which I did this year, and we're going back to do some more shows 2024. It's one of those shows where it just works for me. I don't know whether it's... I always wanted to be in a band, I wanted to be the lead singer of a band. Probably someone like, Michael Hutchence in a way.
Yeah.
INXS would have been perfect for me. So Rocky was the closest I've ever got to that, where I'm sort of,
You're
eccentric.
like a rock star.
Yeah,
but
it's a rock star.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's like being a rock star and in charge. And if you're the songs are quite forgiving. They're not glossy. People probably associate me a lot with Joseph. This is sort of the complete antithesis
it's
to
so
that.
Playful as well.
And also the thing about Rocky is it comes from an actor's homepage. Really, it's very much driven by the dialogue rather than necessarily being the greatest singer. But still, there's some wonderful songs. 3 Chords and the Truth, and you can't go wrong.
Yes. Yeah. Tell me about, just quickly, Talk, It's My Life as we go into this. Why have you picked this?
This is a song that I probably wouldn't have chosen in the 80s so much, but it's just one of those tunes that is haunting. It's I've chosen a lot of songs that are probably about me, defining songs that I feel it's my life, and I'll say what I feel and do what I want, even though probably sometimes I don't do that. Again, very haunting, not haunting production, but it's just, it's very lush and, empowering song. I don't know how to... Music is magic, Music transports us to a time and a place, or a feeling and an emotion. And this is one of those songs that really makes you feel good about being yourself, is what I'm saying.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Now, Jason, Rick Astley is the next pick. There was a documentary recently, Stockake and Waterman documentary, and it seemed that when you kind of took Rick Astley's mantle, like he was the pre-Jason Donovan, is that how it worked within the Stockake and Waterman kind of factory? And also, tell me about the Stockake and Waterman.
Yeah.
It looked great fun, was it?
It was fun, but it was, as I said to you before, for me, I struggled a little. I've been very, very open about this. I struggled with the fact that they wouldn't give me the songs prior to going and recording them, because obviously, it's one thing to have had the success, which I'm very, very grateful for, and I worked hard at. But I'm an artist. I'm a creative person, and I want to be on top of my brief. And when you're being thrown songs that you hadn't heard before, sometimes the experiences in the studio were quite stressful and not easy. But technology, technology in those days was quite analog, but Mike Stott was a genius, and he could make things work that not many other people could. Listen, I think I had an incredible time, incredible success. I look back with those records, and when you compare it to someone like Rick, who's, incredibly in tune musician, it's taken me a long time to feel better about my craft, because the beginning was a lot more difficult for me.
Did you look up to someone like Rick in the first place, and when you went into Stockholm, because he was already a big
Never Gonna
star,
Give You
wasn't
Up was just like, when you heard that in the discos in 88, it was like, what the hell? Who was that? And where that sound, and
where did that voice come from?
Voice came from deep, and I wish I had a little bit more of that, but I'm not complaining. I'm me, and I'm very proud of the moments that I had. But Never Gonna Give You Up, I would probably argue, is their greatest song that they've ever written.
You're both still out there doing your thing, touring and stuff.
Yes.
Are you in touch with him? Do you get on with him?
I do. We WhatsApp quite a bit, actually, Rick and I. He went through a tough time with fame. There's the interesting aspect to this, is that I didn't really struggle with that because of my television stroke, my family and my neighbour's experience, where he really sort of found the whole thing very confronting and quite claustrophobic. I had different struggles with fame and measuring success and how it meant to you as an early 20-year-old man.
It
was difficult.
Yeah,
it was huge. But I'm and I think he is far more at ease with that. Well, I know he is, and I know we both are. And also Rick is someone who really embraces his time with them. It's not, he owns it, and he's good at poking fun at himself, and I think you've got to have a laugh,
But you do that.
I do that. I do that.
Loads of shows. You come out and you have a right laugh, and the audience are with you.
Yeah, I always do, and I'm very grateful for those songs. But listen, Never Gonna Give You Up. It's hard to beat that one, isn't it?
Absolutely. You're one of the greatest things. I remember seeing you in Birmingham a few years ago, Birmingham Symphony Hall, and it was a really great show. Okay. And there were bits up on the screen about, some of your darker career moments.
Yes.
And the audience, mainly women of a certain age around me, but there were people in tears. It's like almost like, we love you because we've been on that journey with you.
Sure.
And everyone was so happy to see you happy on stage. And, it was a great show.
Oh, thank you.
How does that make you feel? You got fans who've been with you,
thick
and thin.
Yeah, look, my career, as I'm just about to go out and do a tour, Doing Fine 2025.
And those dates are, just refresh those dates are.
Those dates are February 2025 through to March and the beginning of April. I can't give you the exact dates, about 40 dates, but I'm excited about all of them. It's I really invested, going back to what we were talking about before, when I knew that I was going to take this path with music and recording, and even though I felt on the back foot initially with that, I knew I had to invest in being a better singer and a better musician. So 1990, I went on my first world tour. Wow. And, it was called Doing Fine, and fast forward to 2025, 35 years of, singing songs, 35 years of being in theatre, playing live, and, that adrenaline, sometimes that anxiety, sometimes great shows, sometimes terrible shows. But I love what music brings to an audience. And what we discovered in the pandemic is that we missed being with people because we're actually sort of tribal. So I feel the best place I've ever felt with my craft. But my home was acting. So I guess, I've really sort of earned my dues. And my fans have been incredibly loyal with me, probably because I'm honest.
Yeah.
I just tell them as it is. And I've had bumps, and I've come through them, and they've been there with me, and I feel very grateful for that.
Tell me about Taylor Dayne. What a song this is. 88, this, isn't it?
Just 88. It
88.
is 88.
It is.
I'm sorry. What else do I say? It's the 80s.
When it comes to like a perfect pop record,
It's
don't
the
you think
perfect-
this is a contender? It's got to be, isn't it?
Perfect. You've got someone like A Boy Meets Girl. You've got Someone Tell It to My Heart. They're very different to the Joy Divisions and the Depeche Modes. It's commercial pop, and I love it. That was one of my problems as an artist, is that I could. People say, "What style do you want?" I said, "I like it all. I'm like a kid in a candy shop. I don't know. I love jazz. I love classical. I love pop. But this is. I haven't really chosen this one before." But just the production and that whole sort of, Lindrum type of, 808 sort of,
Apparently it started life as just a 12-inch record.
Did it?
And people in America were like, this is really big.
Right.
People loved it in clubs. Somebody brought it over to Europe. They then edited it.
Right.
And she was unknown. And then it became a huge hit because of the power of the song.
Yeah, and I could probably see that. And the English know how to, Americans I always think are really wonderful musicians, but the English have a very different take on pop. They, certain things can happen in this country that don't happen around the world, and I think your novelty records, your KLFs, your, Jive Bunnies, all that sort of stuff. But it's a real honest environment, and I think it doesn't happen so much these days, those things, which is a shame. It's just a different climate. But yeah, Taylor Dayne, classic pop. I mean, I don't even try and analyse it. It's one of those records. Let's just play it.
By the way, have you enjoyed this? I've loved.
It's always great to look at particularly the 80s is a period that I know a lot about, and I've been involved in it musically, and from Neighbours on a very successful TV show. The 80s was pre-digital. It was MTV.
Yeah.
Suddenly, you could see you could see the pop stars. You could see, we're talking Michael Jackson's, Thriller, Bowie, Prince, Madonna.
So much going on,
and music, although it doesn't necessarily have a political narrative, but it does change cultures, and that changes people, and that changes the way we dress and the way we think and the way. And it was I notice this when I look at a lot of these live shows where celebrating the 80s, and I've heard this in attempt to do a 90s version of those live shows. Not quite as much fun. Everybody's a little bit more, aggressive, and not as, the 80s, you've got people dressed up. You had Wham, you had, it just was a very golden time for pop and happiness, and I don't know how to articulate the words, but you know what I'm saying.
And it's interesting what you were just saying off the back of that. I remember a trend setter was Neneh Cherry.
Yeah,
who came along, rocked up. She didn't sound like anyone else.
No, she didn't. And female rap was just starting to really come alive, which is incredible. She had attitude.
Yeah.
I think when I saw her on Top of the Pops, she was pregnant.
She was, wasn't it? Really heavily pregnant.
we had the Chains, which is probably influenced by a lot of that coming out of America, and again, this was a sort of an urban look at a very pop sounding record, big in the States as well. Man-Child after this, 7 Seconds, so she was she was a breakthrough artist that really sort of changed the landscape a little bit for probably to lay the foundation for things like Massive Attack and all that type of, which is another hour we could spend.
I'd love to do that sometime.
Really clean records. Great rap. I don't know. Did she write it? I'm not quite sure. Did she have a hand in writing it? Well,
we're a very musical
clever
family, but it's so ahead of its time. And even now, when you hear Raw Like Sushi, the album, it's like, wow, that is a particular. It takes you back to a particular time, doesn't it?
It does.
But way ahead of its time.
Way ahead of its time, and still sounds great, which is the ultimate accolade of a great record, because production values come and go, good melodies, strong message, intelligent pop, I would call it.
Can I ask you? I've got two more questions I want to ask you. First question is Kylie. What do you think of her? And all the success she's had this year. And do you keep in touch with her? Tell me everything.
Well, we don't. I mean, we keep in touch sporadically. She's listen. Kylie's work ethic is incredible, and she's very dedicated to her craft. And we go back a long way. Very special memories. We're not joined at the hip, despite what a lot of people think. Obviously, that's an emotional connection with a lot of people from the past, but I have a lot of respect for her, just her energy, to just wanting to keep going. It is, it is amazing. The impact she's had. And also as an Australian, she's a wonderful icon and role model, I think, for not just Australians, but Australian artists and the business. And I guess in a way she, Australia for a long time was always built on pub rock and grafting your way to the top, mate. She really changed. She brought dance music to the Australian market in a very different way. And look, as a friend, I care very much for her, but as a professional, I have a lot of respect for her, and also to have been part of my own story and also her story is quite special as well. We pinch ourselves when we talk of what's happened to us,
what you've been through,
what we've been through.
Yeah. Amazing stuff.
Yeah,
this
amazing.
is a really random question.
Yes.
My final one. This is just for Christmas. Can you remember the first thing you ever got for Christmas? Or like your favourite toy that you ever got as a kid?
I can't remember specifically, but a bike comes to mind. It was a Malvern Star.
Oh, nice.
I was a very, I'm a big bike rider, even still now. I spend a lot of my time riding bikes in and out of town or wherever I work. My dad, I was brought up by my dad, so, there was never a lot of fluff around Christmas. Christmas is hot in Australia. My stocking was relatively empty, but the bike under the tree always looked pretty good. So I had a great childhood. I can't complain.
Jason, lovely to meet you. Thank you so much for your time.
Well, great
Come in
time.
and we'll do it again.
It's like therapy.
It's lovely. It's nice to be given the time, isn't it? So great to see you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Virgin Radio.